excited to have you on. You had a great NFL career, and I wanted to talk to you about that and talk about playing with Shayne, playing in Cincinnati. We actually talked to one of your former, we were just talking about this in the first segment, we talked to one of your former teammates at USC. We talked to Owen Hansen in this segment, and he had a very interesting story. That had to be interesting to kind of see that play out the way that you did. Obviously, you played with him in college, but then he became quite the celebrity afterwards.
Yeah, he chose a different career than other people, and yeah, it was quite exciting to watch it unfold on TV.
I mean, I can't believe they have a documentary. The book is very good, but so I want to talk about your name a little bit, because there was some debate in studio last week when Shayne wasn't here whether or not Frostee is actually your given name. And Shayne tells me that you've dealt with this, but I also am wondering, I'd like you to tell us about your name and kind of the origins of it. And I'm wondering if you are missing out, if you're sad that you didn't get to take part in NIL, because you would have been a shoo-in for NIL. I mean, the deals would have been coming left and right for you.
Oh, yeah. So, one, that is my name. That's my birth name. And the origin behind it, it was a nickname of my father when he was in the military. He was a Marine, and they called him Frost. And I think this is why I'm so savvy when I DJ, in the locker rooms. But my dad was a DJ for all his friends' house parties. So he was DJ Frost. So I guess when it came time to name me, he was just at the point where it was, they're going to call you Little Frost no matter what I call you. So I got Frostee, and probably 2 years after that, he was out of the military, and I've just been Frostee since 1983. And when you're speaking on NIL, boy, oh boy, would that have been fun to be a part of, to be so brazen about it now and, see what these kids are getting. And I'm just, hopeful that they take care of their chickens, as Marshawn calls them, and make sure, they're putting it away or getting a property, doing something productive with it, and paying their taxes. But I'm glad NIL has shifted college sports in a way that the kids can really benefit from it. And at the end of the day, you want to see things progress, and the NCAA had to figure something out, and hopefully they can tame it. But, it's just wide open. It's, I think it's semi-pro, So I like where it's going, and I wish I could have dabbled into it. I know endorsements would have been great, especially if I lived in a hot area. And, clearly you got Wendy's with the Frosty would have been a smash. I'm a beer guy, so I could have took like a Christmas ale. Would have been cool. Tasty Freeze. There's a lot of stuff that I could have, probably dabbled in.
Air conditioning. But let's be
that's a good one too.
But let's be honest here too. In the early 2000s when USC had some really good runs, it just wasn't called NIL. But there was I don't know. It just wasn't called NIL back then.
Bro, it was such a big area, LA, so who knows what people were doing. I'm sure Owen, has more stories of that stuff, but, there's nothing like the SEC. So when you want to keep it real, keep it a buck, some of those guys took pay cuts going to the league. No so, we got in where we fought in, we earned it, I'll leave it at that.
Sorry, I put him on the spot.
I know.
That's always been an inside joke.
I'm going to give him an out anyways here because, Frosty, you talked about the NIL and hoping that the guys take care of it. I read an article recently about Blake Corum, who played here locally at University of Michigan and now is in the league. But he's made basically, you talked about investing it into real estate. He's turned it into basically like a real estate empire, what he got through NIL and then has given back to the community as a result. So it's nice to see those stories because, yeah, it is prudent advice. The fact that you're a young guy, you're likely to kind of spend it on maybe the things that make you look a little bit more credible or the external stuff rather than kind of investing in your future. And you hope that guys do that now.
Yeah, that's just when guys have good support system around them, when they have active fathers in their life. They got, coaches, and, if the NIL program puts people around them to help them make decisions on, where to put their finances. And it's a beautiful thing to see these guys putting that money to work and figure out their future. Because, when you play football, outside of being a kicker, you're just a play away. The kickers are like cats in a sense, and they just, there's nothing wrong with them ever. But most of us professional football players, you're a play away, and, that injury can range from head to toe, and, things could be over. So getting a chunk of change, put it into something that, can pay off later on down the road and be some mailbox money is a beautiful thing.
Shayne, did he just compare your profession to a cat? Did he say you were cats?
9 lives, and
okay.
You always land on your feet, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
It's funny because when we first met, there was a little bit of like, oh, this guy's just a kicker type tension, typical old school kind of thought of a kicker. And, he looked at me one day in practice, and my jersey's dry. It's crispy clean. And he's, his jersey's soaking wet. He's got grass stains. He's got blood stains. Looks at me and he's just like, just like shakes his head. And I'm like, hey, bro, we both had decisions to make. I kicked, you put your hand in the dirt and decided to play a different way. And, from that point on, we kind of really just kind of made a good, friendship and relationship out of that. But also, I had been around for a few years at that point when he was a rookie, and, kind of really, tried to steer him in a direction. Not that he wouldn't have done it on his own because he's smart and all of that, but really tried to kind of take him under my wing to say, hey, let's get networked in the community. Let's do some community work. Come to my event. Help me with this. And then it turned into he created his own network, which is still to this day a phenomenal job that he does, and community work and all of that. So that's kind of something that I'm proud of, is that when we first met, he was like, who's this freaking guy? And then, kind of turned into, probably one of my best friends, if not my best friend, that is just always been there for me, and, considers me an uncle to his son, and just something that's been a lot of fun along the way as well.
That's a true statement, Shayne, to follow up with what you just said. That was very accurate. I think, probably some words were said in different ways. And you got to understand, Shayne's not just out there, with a uniform clean. He's laughing. He's got a, he's got the sun visor going, he's, lubed up in all the sunblock that he could get. And you look at this guy, and he's just having a great time. And let me tell you, having training camp in Georgetown, Kentucky, there was nothing fun about that. And that was quite an experience, a humbling experience that, I have shared with my son also, that, hey, you're going to have some decisions to make one day, bud. And I hope you choose the right one. But, things have been great. Shayne, you have been, a vessel to the promised land, as I like to say. You've been a great, great, great champion on doing what's right. My hat's off to you and John Thornton for guiding me and steering me and big brothering me into, the right direction. Doing community work means a lot, not just, to the community and what you do, but it's a good thing for yourself to get out there and, give people a smile sometimes. You never know what people got going on. And, every hospital visit or every charity event Shayne had, or, I end up growing into, it's just such a positive thing that you just wish, there was more stories like that. Guys get put in a position and get put on the pedestal of being professional athlete and, just being that warrior that comes out on the field, and, runs through the tunnel and all the good stuff. But, at the end of the day, we're normal people. And, sometimes you run into scenarios that, touch you dearly because of something you've dealt with in your life. And, it's easy to be there. It's easy to, be a phone call away or a text away for Shayne just because of the foundation he, left in me, and, I've taken and blossomed from it. But you got to start somewhere. And I do, give all the praise to, Mr. Shayne Graham and John Thornton.
Well, and let's not be mistaken. He's also, as he has developed over the years, probably on some levels also been a good influence on me as well, because, I make my mistakes and I have my, vices and things like that. And he's kind of been there for me as someone to guide me as well through a lot of those things. So I think it was kind of hand in hand and vice versa on both of those realms. But, John's also done a great job with, developing his son into what he was able to do. And his second career, he's still got his sports agency, right?
Yeah, he's at Rock Nation.
Yep.
Yeah, so John's been doing a great job. He's transitioned, the right way. He's, got to the top of the pyramid when it comes to sports agencies, and the development continues. Great guys to be able to call when something is good and something goes bad, that have been there, done that, and understand how to guide you and how to lead, and that's true leadership. So John's a great guy, and he's continuously, we just talked about, developing kids, or young guys, young athletes on and off the field, and they need that support.
Well, you hit on what I think is a great point earlier, Frostee, talking about how athletes are human beings too. I feel like that gets lost. That's why we like to do this interview segment. That's why we like to get Shayne's thoughts on a lot of these things, because I think as fans and followers of the game, we tend to see guys put on, the uniform, the same jersey, the helmet, maybe you have the thing over your eyes, the visor over your eyes, so you can't even really see the face there, and it's just a name on the field running around. But I always try to remind people, hey, these are human beings, and they've had their own struggles to get where they got to. It's a huge accomplishment to get to this top 0.1% of your field, and just because it's a very public platform where a lot of people like to cheer them on or cheer against them depending on the team and all of those things, it doesn't mean that they don't have human experiences. That's one of the main things that we cover on the show, because we'll talk about that, like, say, even when you move from team to team, you still have to deal with all of the same things that anybody would deal with if they had to move jobs and go across the country to a different job. You have to go to a different market and travel every week for your job, and you have to relocate your family and get used to the places there and the schools and put your kid in a different school and all of those things. So I think people have a tendency to forget that, and I'm glad that we're able to kind of humanize that, because it shouldn't be necessary, but unfortunately it is forgotten about sometimes.
Yeah, correct. I second that. Just a little bit of support, a little big brother with mentorship. It goes a long way, because, people face a lot of different things and challenges and depths during the season, and, you don't often have a chance to grieve. And, and I know my man Shayne went through that also at a time. We have a great buddy, Matt, that went through that also with a family member passing, and the thoughts that could be going through your mind when you have to lay it on the line and be accountable, for a group of guys and the whole organization. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that, but sometimes you can't be as human. You have to be macho, but it's tough. So with the right resources, the right brotherhood, the right, therapy and the right stuff, that you can overcome those things and completely continue to be, a positive impact in the community.
And I think it continues not just when you're, playing together, but even down the road. You never know what we're all going through in our own personal lives. Frostee and I both dealt with, probably losing a few of our teammates, friends over the years, but recently lost one of our, good friends and teammates. And, we kind of got to get together in his hometown and kind of celebrate his life. And, you kind of feel bad because you're like, was I a good enough friend to this person? Could I have been there for them in some way or another? And I think we can all beat ourselves up like that, but I don't think it's really fair to ourselves to do that, but also like take that as a lesson and make sure that you're there for the people that you do have, and make sure that when they're going through something hard, you're there for them and you're available and you're present. And I think that's something that, we all should obviously try to do, but not be afraid to ask if someone's okay, if they're going through something tough, whether it was a mistake they made or whether it's something that happened to them outside their control or whatever it may be. I think, when people reach out to me and ask how I'm doing, I've learned over the years to just talk about it versus holding it in and just, putting my tough guy mask on, because, we just don't know what we need until we get it sometimes. And sometimes we don't know what someone needs until we give it to them, and then they realize they needed it. So I think that's something that's, the bond of being teammates is great, and we make some bonds a lot closer than others. But I think it's a lot different than just like maybe some buddies you made in college, and it's a lot different than maybe some buddies you met in the social scene. That teammate structure is really, really cool when you have kind of a brotherhood that you build, and the really cool thing about it is how it breaks the barriers of culture and race and regionality and all of that, and it makes it really cool to kind of have those. Because had I just been secluded in my hometown area, I would not be exposed to a lot of things that I've been exposed to over the years. I mean, I would be exposed to one certain kind of race. I would be exposed to one certain kind of music. I would literally be limited to one train of thought. And I think because I've been able to branch out and be in other places and meet people that were different than what it was like where I grew up, it's really helped shape me a lot. I still have my certain things that I believe in and all that, but also I think it's also made me a little bit more well-rounded to understand certain things that maybe I don't always feel like I would have understood otherwise.
Well said. Well, and of course, you probably got exposed to more music by DJ Frostee, too.
Shayne knew what he was doing. He had every car that you can have with the sound system. So, he's a well-versed guy. Don't let him fool you with his turn the tire that he wears. He's a hip-hop guy, pop guy. He's a Swiftie. He's all that.
I don't know about Swiftie, but you're pretty close. You're pretty close.
I mean, yeah, I thought he was breaking news on here at the Swiftie. I hadn't heard that before. But well said. It is great that you can be exposed to those kinds of things. Travel and different lines of work and all of that help do that. I travel a lot for my career as well, and yeah, you just get exposed to so many different things, because that was one of the things that was interesting to me, Frostee, about you guys kind of pairing up, because I would think that obviously you're in your position group for a lot of the time. So you're going to be paired with the other defensive linemen. You're going to be in a room with them, coached by the defensive line coach. And obviously you're interacting with a lot of the other teammates too, but you're going to be paired up with your position group. But that's what's kind of interesting about Shayne's position group, because he's one of one. Yeah, he's with the specialists, but he's one of one as far as he can't hang out with the other kickers. He can hang out with the punter, I guess.
Yeah.
But not necessarily the other kickers. So you were with the defensive linemen, but it's kind of cool that you guys found each other, even though you guys were kind of on opposite ends of the team, I guess, to a degree.
And we even had position dinner groups during the year. So like Thursday night would be like such and such, or maybe Friday night would be like position dinner groups. Well, I was always with the D linemen and the linebackers. Those were just the guys that I would go to the groups with Frostee as well.
So you let him in the club, huh, Frostee?
No, don't say that. No. Even though Shayne had VIP everywhere we went. But no, I think what brought our relationship closer and closer is, the community work. Shayne was very, very active on the days off. And, coming in as a rookie, unfortunately, I got hurt The first preseason game, I tore my shoulder up, and so every Tuesday became free for me to be out in the community, and I got a really good chance to meet Shayne. And you did such a tremendous job of being active, holding galas, actually being in front of the kids. It was fun, and it really said community work can be a very positive thing. And that's leadership. So, God's good.
Definitely. Well said. And we really appreciate you coming on the show. This has been a lot of fun to hear you and Shayne go back and forth. Now I know that Shayne's a Swiftie, so we can talk about that at different times in the show. But no, it's been great to have you on, and we appreciate you being so candid about your football life and your career as a whole. And yeah, hopefully we can have you back on and chat with you some more and get some more stories here about Shayne.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. Shayne is a Swiftie. Don't let him back out of that. No, honestly, guys, anytime you get a chance to, go on and, talk shop is always a good thing.
Yeah.
The conversation's good. We're not, talking about the many negative things that could be going around, in our lives, but the positive talk is a great thing. And I hope that sends a message out there to the universe. Let's just keep talking positive things. Talk about the good times, and help your mindset, help your day.
Well said. We like to focus on the positive here because sports radio can get very negative in general, and we like to take a different approach, and we appreciate you supporting that approach here. But yeah, we'll definitely have you back on, and we appreciate you joining us here.
You got it, guys. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.